Good morning. Welcome to World War III. And for those of you who are married, World War III is not a big deal. I'm down by the river, and it's not quite dawn yet. You can see the sun shining on a window down the street, about to come up. So I'll do the tour here. I want to talk about World War III, which you are already in, but a lot of people don't realize it yet. They used to joke about the war will be televised, or the revolution at least will be televised. And the revolution is televised. All that rioting by Antifa and Black Lives Matter was part of the televised revolution. I come down here every day to soothe my soul. And give you a shot of the moon if I can find it. Somewhere up there into the sky, very pale. Must be a white man's moon, a pale face. And this is the stairs that lead down into the river. On the other shore there, that brown line is endless log booms which are secured to the shore, awaiting to be taken up to the lumber mill off to your left. Beautiful, the natural world. If you don't have any, get some. Day before yesterday, I came across a quote by George Orwell. He's the guy who wrote 1984, which you should read, audiobook, watch all 3 movies, and get back to me. And it's about a world that's controlled by the news, and there's a constant war which never ends. And this book was written in 1932, I think released in 1934. I'm Canadian, so it was required reading because when I was a child we had hopes of having a better future. In that book, there were 3 major powers: Oceania, which really was in the book Britain; East Asia, which is China; and Eurasia, which is Russia. And what they were fighting over was everyone was trying to take over Africa, like they are now. And in the book, what was so unusual was they were fighting against East Asia, and their ally was Eurasia. And then overnight they switched to they were fighting with Eurasia, and their ally was East Asia, which is similar to what's happened in our world for the longest time. Russia's been the enemy And China was becoming more and more sort of an ally, a Western partner. This is where all the small troops are collected and let go into the river. Not unlike now, where for a long time Russia's been the enemy and China's been our sort of friend, and now suddenly China's our enemy and Russia looks like they're becoming a reasonable partner. And out of all the crazy government types, Putin seems the most cogent and calm and conciliatory, and most of all innocent. Well, these are pictures of what went on here during the last 100 years. Logging, salmon fishing. And as chance would have it, this is a picture of my family from some time. It's my mother and her 3 younger sisters and her 2 older sisters, one's older sister. They'd all passed away, leaving it to me. So down here we have a bunch of Canada geese feeding on the grass. So I don't want to disturb them, so I'm going to go around. They beat the crap out of me. But as tough as our hockey players. So the quote I found was from George Orwell. I don't know if it's in the book, but he said, "The common people never revolt of their own accord. They only revolt when they realize they're being suppressed. And if you can keep them from having a standard of comparison, they won't even know they're suppressed." Which brings me to why the United States has to be taken down. The United States is the standard of comparison that all the people in the third world who are being beaten up by their third world enlightened rulers look at the U.S. and go, well, they have food. And other things. I'll give you a shot of most of the nature over there. U.S. has freedom, food, television, guns, free education, even a thing like bicycles. I have some friends who go to Cuba every year and they take a container load full of aid, and one of them, if you give somebody a bicycle in Cuba, it's like buying them a car, because they can now get to this store, which is 11 miles away. I can pick stuff up from other people. They can get medicine. They can get to the hospital. And here the kids just throw the bikes on the ground, bash it up. So, Someone has decided it's now time to get rid of the United States. Because it's giving a lot of people ideas about freedom and equality and justice. And it's been going on for a long time. It's been going on. How rude. The dog just attacked the ducks. The dog thinks it's funny. So, there are things that underlie. I'm an historian, let's say. And the problems start with hunger, always, everywhere. And then books. Books that have had massive effects on history are the Bible, the Quran, the Vedas, the works on Buddhism, the communist books by Karl Marx. They're convincing of ideas, and people who are hungry read them and look for a solution to their hunger. And they're manipulated into wars as a solution to their poverty by people who aren't really their friends. And World War I came out of Germany because of the invention of psychiatry, psychology by Sigmund Freud, influencing Kaiser Wilhelm, thinking, well, these peasants are just peasants. We can do what we want with them. And that was horrific. I think it was the first time they actually used poison gas. World War II was based on more ideals, and that was horrific. And the underpinning of that, Russia was created by Marx, and I can't remember the other guy's name. Ideas. It is said that communist Russia was created by the British. It is the beginning of the game of East and West, the endless war, Cold War. Russia's bad. And that went on all the way through the Cold War and the Berlin Wall up until now, when Russia's becoming our buddy and China's becoming the enemy. Books that were not paid attention to. There was a book out 50 years ago called China, 1/4 of the world, population-wise, and it was, and it's only grown since then. It's kind of a warning. There's a book by Alvin Toffler called Future Shock, which is out at the same time, the early 70s probably, which no one paid any attention to. There was a book called Silent Spring by Rachel Carlson, which is about pollution and the death of the insects, leading to the death of the food crops. Some attention was paid to that. Some noise was made about reining in pollution. But from these books, after World War II, the U.S. hunger for world domination plus national security from bad actors, they brought Nazi scientists over from Germany and implemented them here, and it said that the Nazis made some ideological converts among the military. And rushing to the end, and I'll circle back, like Jen. The military now was 50-50 divided between whether they liked Trump or not, and his wanting to make America great again, the strength of the military. Others not so much. So if the military is divided and there's a war, it's not good. So circling back, the ideas in these books have been implemented through the universities, through teachers, professors, classes, taught to the young people this is a good idea. Capitalism is bad, and being a wage slave is bad. The state should take care of you. This never works out because the state never has any money unless they steal it from the next country, because only entrepreneurs create cash and goods. And there is no government in our history that's ever been able to successfully manage production. It takes a manager, and a manager doesn't get a political office because he wants to be a manager. So we've had communism, Marxism, socialism slowly leaked into the American culture. I'm in Canada. We are a socialist democracy. I don't even know what that means, but now I'm scared because I think there's socialism everywhere and it's invisible. I don't know. I better look into that. So what we now have is the destruction of the United States of America as a unified entity. They did have unified feel, and they did have the most dangerous military. And we're apparently willing to use it. And they sanctioned people all around the world who were committing crimes against humanity, and some other people where it was just advantageous to hold the country back so American billionaires could make more money. All in the name of national security, which covers everything. We'll move over. The sun's coming up in my face, for which I should be grateful, because the morning the sun doesn't come up in my face, I'll be pushing up daisies. So what you don't see is the weather war. Last crop season, there were horrific storms that destroyed the corn crop, and the corn is used to feed animals, which is used to feed us. I say that was done deliberately by an electronic radio wave generator like the HARP system. It might have even been the HARP system. Every country has these the ability to send radio energy into the sky and change the weather or even back down and cause earthquakes, for example. So the crops were destroyed 2 years ago. Now there's a drought. Crops can't be grown, there's no water. And the end of every great civilization to date has been famine. But what's occurring is that you don't see. There's no feed for the animals. So the farmers who own the animals can't afford to feed them, so they have to slaughter them and throw them out. And there goes the next generation. There goes all that meat, all the chickens, the pigs, and the cattle thrown out, and they're not having any children because they were killed. On to the next year. Where are the animals? Because of the lockdown, there are no truck drivers to move the feed, even if there was feed, to people, meat producers who don't have any animals because they slaughtered them. And even if they had the animals, the meat packing plants are closed, so they can't get the meat packed up, which is another problem. The big three companies are still shut down, which is absolutely stupid. They could have trained up people in hazmat suits to be doing this in the ensuing year. So the supplies in warehouses are dwindling, the cans are getting smaller, the prices are getting higher. No one seems to really have noticed, and it's planned that way so you wouldn't notice. Where I am, as of 3 weeks back, the can sizes started getting smaller. I think the big ones were they had a big supply in the warehouse. All the big cans are gone, so now we're getting the newer, smaller cans at the same price, and soon we'll get the smaller cans at an increased price. So food is dwindling, and there's no way to replace it. The chickens have been butchered and thrown out. The cattle have been butchered and thrown out. The pigs have been butchered and thrown out. Even the potatoes, they had to just dump the potatoes, let them rot in the fields. So no potato chips, no frozen French fries, and people's first fallback position when there's no food is, well, we'll eat spaghetti. Well, there are no cans, so the tomatoes cannot be canned, so there'll be no canned spaghetti sauce, and the tomatoes will rot in the fields. For the most part, except the people who make this stuff in the glass jars. So, what are you going to do if you can't even make spaghetti? Spaghetti comes from wheat. Wheat comes from flour and wheat. If there's a drought, there won't be wheat. I flew from Vancouver to Chicago once, and for I think 5 hours we flew over wheat fields. And I was getting bored. I had a window seat, and it was like nothing but wheat. And I said, what do they do with all this stuff? How can there be hunger in the world when there's all this wheat? The answer was, they make vodka out of it. And they feed the mash to the pigs who are dead, so the mash gets thrown out. So if there's no food, and you have a divided military and a government that's really not on your side, and you get attacked by anyone or anything, it's going to be a lot worse than it was. And the actual plan is for America to be attacked by everyone. China, Russia, Iran, and when America's floundering and going, oh my God, it's so terrible, the United Nations will rush in, and this has already been signed for, to help UN martial law. And you've seen it on TV. You take, the rifle butts, and we're helping you. We're helping you a lot. All over Africa. We watched it on TV and did nothing. It's all set up. It was signed for during the Obama years. And the southern border is what's called Muslim-style warfare, where they take the terrified people of the oppressed countries and drive them before the Muslim army, and the target company sees this wave of people coming and going, oh my God, it's so horrible where we are. Help us, which is what's going on the southern border. Muslim-style invasion. This has been used for 5,000 years, and what happens is these people show up, and half of the people say we should help them, the poor dears, and the other half says throw them back into the sea, they have a right to be here, we have our own problems, to further divide and conquer. Divide the people over the refugee issue, divide the people over Republican, Democrat, divide the army over Make America Great or Let's Go Nazi. Things are not good, and they just hang in the balance. The TV is still on. You can watch Friends reruns. The traffic lights are still working. You can still go to 7-Eleven and get a smoothie. There's toilet paper for sale in the stores. There's gasoline. We're paying $6 a gallon in Canada for gas. And that used to be the joke. Someday we'll be paying $6. Now we are. It's going to go up when things get bad. Things are just okay. They're nice. They're the same. This park, every day young men come in trucks and pick up every scrap of garbage and cigarette butt and pop bottle and make it all shipshape for us to come down and walk around. And they're the $21 an hour kind of guys. They come down at 6 a.m. and open up the washrooms and check them out and make sure they're clean and there's toilet paper. I guess the phrase is shit hit the fan, SHIT situation. That hasn't happened yet, but it's close. I haven't been near any of the rioting in the U.S. I don't know what that's like or how extant it is, or it was never have been allowed before. I did see a video, an Antifa video from 3 years before all that started. They were blocking off the San Francisco Bridge. I never saw that. They were doing that 3 years before it started. Now, when it's a big deal now, not reported. The news in Canada doesn't report stuff like that. We hear nothing. Back east, well, all over the place, people are being arrested, and quite roughly, for anti-mask protests. They'll even come and get you before you have the protest, which is like pre-crime, which is like 1984. We heard you were thinking of having a protest, so we're going to arrest you. That's pretty Orwellian. It's pretty fascism, actually. You have socialism, and then you have fascism, which is where the military comes into play of martial law. We're not ready for that. We are coiled puffballs, spoiled rotten. And we're a bad example for the other 190 countries that are having a tough time feeding their people, educating their people. Apparently we throw out enough restaurant food every day to feed the third world, and maybe even for a week. That's one of the big tugs going up the river to grab a log boom and take it out to the lumber mill. We have lots of lumber here, and then they take the chips and sell it to be burnt in furnaces. And they reclaim the cardboard boxes and turn it into toilet paper. So I've been trying to warn people about this for 10 years, 11 years now. And it's gotten to the point where it's become so socialist slash fascist. I have to watch what I say, so I'm no longer free. And more than 80 videos on YouTube. I had one taken down because I talked about it. And just had this, a copyright strike. And the guy said, you can use my stuff if I can advertise. Hell yeah, because it's something I thought they might take it down. And then the last one was 18 and over because it was too much truth. So, if you're listening to this, and anybody who does this, please spread it around to the 65% of people who don't want to hear about this, because they're going to get nailed really hard. They're going to wind up starving with no prep, and they're going to say, but I have rights, and someone will say, you see this piece of paper? Your rights disappeared last year at the speed of light, so shut up and line up. Or we'll shoot you because you're a terrorist. Another piece of paper saying, see, terrorists can be shot on sight. I'm going to have to stop here and make another clip because my phone is telling me that I'm running out of space. As I'm trying to tell you that you're running out of space. You need to save up 2 years worth of food. If you can sell your car, buy a 10-speed, and buy 2 years of storable food and water. You're going to need some kind of home self-defense because if shit hits the fan, there's going to be roving gangs of people looking for food, guns, money, sex. And some of these will be your neighbors. So I'm about to buy panels that I can screw in with 4-inch wood screws to cover my windows. Also, the weather wars, if you've seen the weather happening all over Europe, all the way down to Saudi Arabia, they had hailstorms, wind and rain like no one's ever seen. Then they did Paris, probably Berlin next. This is piled on top of everything else. If the weather is the worst weather you've ever seen anywhere, even on television, worse than a hurricane, what are you going to do? No one could do anything. The army even could barely drive around with their super heavy-duty vehicles. So it's happening, this new world order. They are going to take over the world. And the rationale for doing so is population growth. In the future, we will not be able to feed people, and they're going to become a national security problem. So before that happens, we need to get rid of them sterilize them or down the birth rate to slow this down. And it makes sense on paper, but it's not. As Trixie Mattel says, it's not part of God's plan.